I got started teaching people how to get in shape, right? Because I was a in-person trainer. And so I got good at getting people in sick shape to the point where, I mean, I didn't even have to be with them in person. I could just hear like their weight, their height, their weekly, their daily activity. They send me pictures of what they're eating, and I could build out a protocol for them. And then they would get in great shape just following the protocol. I transitioned to coaching because I had more leverage in doing that because I didn't want to be tied to working with people in person. So I started coaching them online and helping them get in great shape online and building out a program to help them do that. Right. So I didn't start going, oh, I want to start making money online. I don't know how to do anything online. So let me just start coaching and teaching people how to build an online business, even though I myself have never done that, which is what a lot of people do.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of our Spotlight Sessions. This podcast is dedicated to high levelers, making sure they get exposure to some of the top talent that's out on the marketplace that they may not get a chance to speak to every day. I'm your host, JB, and today we're diving into how you can either help yourself if you're a coach using high level, or how you can help your clients that maybe are coaches using high level with you. And most importantly, how do you help support them during that journey, or how do you end up taking your business to serve your clients better? We have a fantastic guest with us today, someone who's been through the journey of launching, scaling, productizing their coaching business, but more importantly, that's maybe a familiar face in one of the other communities that you've been a part of, and one that's part of our community now at high level. Together, we put together an episode with three important points that we want to drive home to you. And these are topics around really how to grow your business. So the first one that Iggy and I put together here was how to go about getting a coaching business off the ground. The second one we'll talk about is acquiring clients at scale, organic, or do you go paid ads? And the third is the P word, productize. What are you delivering and what process are you providing to your customer to get that experience? So without further ado, help me if you're tuned in live, comment below. Help me give a warm welcome to Iggy Odighizuwa, who's made a name for himself in the coaching and marketing space with his experience in building the businesses, but more importantly, helping others, his peers, other marketers, while doing so. Iggy, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate the kind and generous words. I don't know if I've made a name for myself in this space. Maybe I have, but happy to be here.
Well, look, when I met you at a Onyx Mastermind event, you were definitely quiet, and you had a small crew that you were with, and I said I got to meet this guy. So we got to chat a little bit, and I got to learn a little bit about your story, and then we all jumped into the pool and the after party. I got to know more about you, man. I said, these are the best relationships to make, and I really feel that our audience who may not be aware of you, they can get a ton of value from you. So I'm glad you jumped on here. We have a lot to unpack, and you're definitely very humble. Do you mind sharing a little bit about your past experience in other ecosystems? You're not one to show awards, and you're not one to kind of, put your resume on your profile. But just for those who may not be familiar with you, or who may be saying, why is this gentleman on this podcast teaching me something? Would you mind just doing me that favor?
Yeah, I mean, I've been fortunate enough to, build several seven-figure coaching businesses, and been a part of taking two eight-figure coaching businesses to eight figures. And our clients, I mean, first year of launching our mastermind, we produced about 27-figure online businesses and produce over 200 multi six-figure online businesses. So building online businesses and online like coaching programs is just something that I just found myself to be naturally kind of good at because I'm good at pattern recognition, right? Identifying patterns and seeing what works, what kind of and building out that customer journey to get people to ultimately become paying clients.
Yeah. And in your journey, the so the awards that you've won, and the accolades that you've received, would you mind just sharing a little bit around the motivation around what you do and why you keep doing it, right? Is it what keeps you fully energized? I mean, again, when I last spoke with you, you had right informally in your office, you had a bunch of multiple seven-figure awards that people recognize in the industry. You got me with a black blank screen behind me, but that's fine.
Yeah, I'm actually in the middle of moving my
Yeah. I mean, it was like
my
I feel like we
office.
were in the trophy chest here, man. I'm like, this guy's on fire. I gotta learn something. Where do I buy the subscription?
Yeah, so normally, if anybody looks me up or sees any of
All right,
my
so they can do the research. It's
videos,
visible. It's there.
they'll see our my eight-figure plaque from ClickFunnels and several different seven-figure stuff and things like that. These aren't numbers being pulled out of my ass. These are like actual results that we've delivered and gotten for ourselves.
Yeah, man.
But yeah,
And
I'm in a transitionary period, so you don't get to see all the shiny bells and whistles normally behind me.
oh, but it's all good, man. And I know you were doing some travel. You attend a bunch of events, and that's how we met. So look, I want to get to what the audience wants, right? They want the meat and potatoes. They want to know the action items. So thank you for sharing some context on that. Look, you've built these businesses, and there's different businesses and different types. When someone says coaching business, is that like fitness coaching? Is it health and wellness? Is it what is coaching business these days?
Coaching business is really any kind of like info um, with community. So you want to kind of think about the different segments, right? If you're just selling a course, you don't really have a coaching business. You have an info product, right? Coaching is when you're actually taking on clients, and the difference between a regular customer and an actual like client is access to you as a person who's the educator and the mentor, and access to your team and access to others that you're working with in a community environment, right? So when I'm talking about like building like a coaching business, I mean people who are working directly with the educator, the person who's like the expert, working directly with them or working in close proximity with them and their team, and then have access to a community that's involved in that as well.
Yeah. And just when working as a coach, is there some sort of, I guess, certification that you need? Like what makes you a coach? Is it like let's say you're a chiropractor and now, you're a physician, so you want to start coaching other chiropractors. Would that person fit into that industry well?
Yeah, I mean the main thing is like with the space is heavily like unregulated, so you don't need to be certified or have some type of like masters or whatever it is.
Okay.
The most important thing, the reason why I love the space is number one, you actually need to know what you're talking about, right? There's so many people out there who don't know what the hell they're talking about, and they're trying to teach something they've never done, right? I got started teaching people how to get in shape, right? Because I was a in-person trainer. I used to take 100 one-on-one sessions per week as an in-person trainer. And so I got good at getting people in sick shape, right? To the point where, I mean, I didn't even have to be with them in person. I could just hear like their weight, their height, their daily activity. They send me pictures of what they're eating, and I could build out a protocol for them. And then they would get in great shape just following the protocol, right? So I transitioned to coaching because I had more leverage in doing that, because I didn't want to be tied to working with people in person. So I started coaching them online and helping them get in great shape online and building out a program to help them do that. Right. So I didn't start going, oh, I want to start making money online. I don't know how to do anything online. So let me just start coaching and teaching people how to build an online business, even though I myself have never done that, which is what a lot of people do. Right.
And that's where the failure rate comes in, and people then start bad mouthing the process.
Exactly. So for me, it was I've been getting people incredible transformation, right? Anytime I work with somebody in person, like I can guarantee, I don't care how much muscle or how much weight they want to lose. If I'm working with them in person, I'm like, give me 16 weeks and you're going to be completely blown away by how you look in that time frame. Right. So then for me, it was like, okay, how do I translate that knowledge, right? That nuance that I have, how do I effectively translate that online so I have leverage and I'm not tied to a physical location. But then I'm also not tied to only being able to help the people in my like radar. I can especially doesn't matter where you are in the world. If you have the money and you can afford what I want to do for you, you can afford the transformation and the result that I can provide, I can work with you, right? And so that optionality became very, very key in why I wanted to make the transition to building an online coaching business.
Yeah. So, transformation, transition, transfer, and options, those are all the right words that lead us right into our first topic, which is, how to go about getting the coaching business off the ground. You're the subject matter expert, you have the confidence, you have the resources, and you're committed to helping people transform, sharing that information, teaching them it, and then you being the clear choice of who to follow along with getting that part going. What is the starting point, right? You get somebody who wants to now take action, business plan, hire somebody to do it for you. Like, where do we go?
Yeah, you gotta. I am strongly against hiring somebody to do it for you, because you have to learn. You got right. Like you can't. I can't. Fitness is the best analogy because I can't get in shape for you. Right? You have to be the one getting under the bar and putting in the reps. Right? The same with business. The thing about business that you could hire somebody to do it for you, but guess what happens when they're no longer around? Like that weight is going to crush you, right? Because you haven't built the strength to actually do the reps yourself. So in business, you got to do it, right? You got to essentially do the reps yourself, but then you got to think through what your vehicle is going to be, right? So if you have a day job, I strongly recommend keeping your day job, right? Because the day job becomes the vehicle that generates income that you can use to promote and market your online business. So for me, you have to look at, do I have an abundance of time, or am I time poor, but I have some capital that I can deploy towards figuring out how to get this thing going, right? I've never built a successful online business using purely organic, right? I've always built all of our seven-figure businesses, even our eight-figure businesses, they've all been purely with paid ads, right? Purely with paid ads. And we've helped a lot of people build successful multi six and seven and even eight-figure online businesses purely with paid ads. So my recommendation is if you have some type of income coming in, keep that income coming in, but then learn how to take that cash that you're getting from your day job and learn how to multiply it using cold traffic. And that's contrary to popular belief because most people will say, hey, if you're starting online for the first time, you need to learn organic marketing. You need to learn how to get clients using organic and using your social media profile and things like that. Whereas for me, I'm like, I'd rather learn how to do that using paid ads because with a click of a button, I can put my message in front of thousands of people and guarantee that I get those impressions versus with organic, there's no guarantee that I get any impressions whatsoever. Right.
And yes, and I feel like sometimes if somebody says go all organic, it just might be a higher price ticket that they charge you for, right? Take for them doing maybe the work for you or building out something from scratch. And someone maybe a coach is trying to fit your budget, right? There's many different reasons why someone might say organic versus paid. But as we determine that part, before we even go that far, mentioned before, are you going to be offering access to you as the expert? Are you going to be teaching in some sort of form of course or community? Could you help us understand here just how do we determine either if it's worth it, like worth the time wise, and then what's required to like maintain that? Because once you
Yeah.
start, you got to keep it going.
Yeah. I mean, when you're starting out, for me, first thing you got to do is just create a checklist of what your clients need to go through in order to get a particular result. Right. So when I was making the transition online, I was like, well, if I'm going to teach somebody, and this is why I think I approached it very different than most people because I figured out the fulfillment side and like what was I going to be doing with people. Whereas a lot of coaches out there would be like, hey, just sell them and then figure out how you're going to service them after the fact. I'm not a fan of that frame at all because if you care about what you're doing and you care about doing a good job, it goes against your morals and it goes against your integrity and you feel it's gonna you're gonna eventually sabotage yourself doing that, right? So I didn't feel good about trying to sell somebody something that I didn't really have even a map. So the first thing I did was I sat down and created a clear roadmap for how I would get somebody great results if they're going to work with me online to get in shape. I was like, what am I doing with my clients in person? What are the steps that I'm taking them through? I documented those steps, right? And before I knew, I had like 21 different steps that eventually turned into my 16 to 21 week program, right? I didn't have anything recorded at that time. I didn't have any materials built. Just having the curriculum gave me permission to actually start selling someone because I was like, okay, if they give me money, I know for a fact I'm going to get them results. I'm just going to have to manually take them through this 21 checklist process in order for them to get to the end outcome. But I'm 100% okay selling this program that I just wrote out for anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000 because now I actually know how I'm going to get them results.
Yeah, it's a big deal, and I think that's where people, you say the self-sabotage is something that happens whether you know it or not. The guilt comes in. Did I not do this? Am I the right person for this? Imposter syndrome. All these different things happen. So number one takeaway is that I'm getting from you is make sure you have the framework, the roadmap, the customer journey. Put yourself in their shoes, and then itemize or list out what are you going to deliver on. And if you need to
Yeah.
bring someone else in or other resources, bake that in because there might be a cost. So let's say for fitness, if you have to have them go to a lab or do certain membership or buy certain foods or subscribe to certain meal plans, you have to count that in at some point and let them know about it.
Yep. And it's just it took me a couple hours over the weekend to really map this out, right? And it wasn't until I got that done did I actually start being able to confidently market and start trying to acquire clients. Because up until that point, I already spent money on a mentor to teach me how to build an online business, but I could not implement anything that he was trying to teach me because I was too mentally stuck on the fact that like, what am I going to do if somebody pays me money? Right? I did not have a plan. And for me, I cannot take action without even, it doesn't need to be a fully fleshed plan. It just needs to be a rough outline to let me know I'm directionally correct. Right. And so it wasn't until I did that and actually just documented, just wrote out step by step and just had a rough outline of what that journey looked like. Then I was like, okay, got it. I can actually start selling this thing now.
So now
Right.
you got that plan, right? And there, you mentioned before, and we talked a little bit offline, the organic versus paid ads, and there's so many moving parts to it. And, we don't have all the time, right, to go into the weeds now, but as people are watching this episode, there'll be some information below on how to find Iggy and understand his story, but also see where potentially you can lean on him for a question or two to be answered. As you could tell here, very approachable, easygoing guy, and for the industry. But Iggy, I want to take it to our second point, which is acquiring clients at a beginner level, and then at what point, what does scale mean in that process? So, organic and paid ads, is organic, starting and paid ads is scaling. Could you jump into that a little bit, as if I was a mentee of yours, with a short amount of time?
I mean, the first thing that we'd have to do is we'd have to get clear on who you're wanting to serve, right? And what are the requirements that they need in order for them to be a good fit for you to serve them, right? Who can you serve at the highest level? What are the requirements there? And then you have to craft your messaging around speaking to that one type of person, right? So the first thing you have to get clear, and I'm sure everyone teaches this, is you got to know your avatar. You got to know your ideal client profile, and then you have to get your messaging dialed in. Like, what are you actually doing for them? How are you going to speak to them? And then you need to have like your offer mapped out. Like, what are you going to offer them? Right. Once you have those things done, the process of acquiring clients online is very easy, right? All you're doing is you're getting attention, right? And you can get attention via organic traffic. You get attention via affiliates. You get attention via paid ads. You can get attention via cold calling, right? All you need is you got to get attention, right? And then once you start getting attention, then you need to start having conversations, right? So you go from attention and then you're having conversations. And the conversation is around you're finding out what they're struggling with, what got them interested. And you're having these initial little conversations via DMs or via email, via a short 5 minute conversation, whatever it is, you're having conversations. And then you're making offers, right? So you get attention, you're having conversations, and then you're making offers, and then you're servicing the clients. But those are really like three steps that you're going through to start getting things off the ground. It's like, how do I start getting attention on this thing that I'm doing now? I can be going live on Facebook, I can be going live on Instagram, or I can spend $10 a day on ads and start putting my offer and start putting my message in front of thousands of people, right? You get to choose what vehicle makes sense for you.
And how does somebody determine should they be on TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook? Like, how, because everybody wants to be everywhere, right? But you mentioned before you have to know who your avatar is and where they're at. But is there some best practice or something you could share with at least get in that direction?
Yeah, I mean, you got to start with where your people are at. But for me, honestly, I mean, I've not seen just very few offers that I've seen that you cannot target those people using Facebook or Instagram, right? So the place to start is going to be like, where are you spending the most time as far as social media? And then are your people that you want to target spending time there, right? If I have an offer targeting a very specific type of woman and all those women are on Pinterest and I'm sitting there marketing on Facebook and none of them are on Facebook at all, at some point you're like, well, you got to go where the people are. You got to make sure you're fishing in the right pond, right? So the way that I kind of determine that is where platform am I spending the most time on? And is the people that I want to get in front of, are they spending time on that platform? And if they are, then I just pick one, right? I pick the one that I'm spending the most time on, the one that I'm already learned, that I already know how to use, and the one that has my people there, right? And that's where I start. And you just start with one channel.
So we
Don't worry
start with
about where it wants.
Yep, we start with that one channel. Let's just say for this example, it's Meta. How do we go about launching these ads? Based on your experience, is this the dollar a day method? I'm not sure if that even exists these days, right? I don't know how much a dollar can get you these days, but more than anything, are you using it through the business center? Are you using it through a third party app? Are you going targeted ads? Like, where's a
Yeah,
good starting point?
you'd go for that. I like to keep it very simple, right? We'll use the business manager or the ads manager, and we'll do one asset with one to three different creatives, anywhere from $5 to $20 per day.
Okay.
Right. If you have a $20 a day budget, then you can test four different ad sets, right? And so that's how I do it. So $5, so one ad set, one to three creatives, $5 to $20 a day per ad set. And all you're doing with these creatives is you're running either you're testing images or you're testing videos, and you're pushing those to a conversation. You're not sending them to a landing page. You're not sending them to anything complex. You're pushing those to conversation so you can talk to people, right? And you're asking them questions about what got them interested, what are they struggling with, what are the challenges, what have they tried before, and see if they're interested in scheduling a more formal conversation with you for you to potentially make them an offer, right? And that's all you're doing on repeat. And then what will happen is you'll have enough of these conversations to where you're like, oh, I'm seeing a pattern here of what people want. Let me update my marketing creative. Let me update my headline. Let me update the video, what I'm talking about in the video, so it's more aligned with the people that I want to have more conversations with, right? And that gives you that really tight feedback loop, right? Then you make those adjustments, you publish the new creatives, and then you start having more conversations, and you'll notice a pattern between the messaging that you have in your ads, right? They call it copy, that messaging or the copy that you have in your ads and your creatives, and the types of people that are being attracted by it, right? And you have that type feedback loop because you're talking to these people. And you're like, oh, okay, I see. I can see the ad that you came from. I'm seeing a pattern of all these kind of people that I don't want to work with coming from this ad because of the targeting that I have. Okay, I need to change that.
And
Right.
that
I'm
could
going to
be
turn
from
that off and try.
geographical targeting. That could be from, people that are just asking random questions that it's
Yeah.
irrelevant.
It could
Um,
be geographical, it could be interest targeting, it could be whatever it is. But the thing I love about Facebook is the fact that you can get very particular with the interest groups that you want to target and the demographic. Are they parents? Are they mothers? Are they married? Are they divorced? Are they interested in sports? Are they interested in property or whatever it is? And you can really segment it. And it makes it easy for you to just play around with the interest targeting and the messaging and then having conversations to validate those 2 points.
yeah, and you've repeated it multiple times because it's clear that it's a big part of the success that you're seeing with your business and others is conversations. Like just getting a name and email means nothing if you never have a conversation with them. And correct me if I'm wrong, but if they're willing to have a conversation on the fly, whether it's through WhatsApp, Messenger, whatever platform you have it connected to, then they're interested in at least learning. And there's a better
Yep.
chance of at least setting an appointment.
Yep.
Yeah, that's sometimes I feel like it's easy to kind of go deep in the weeds with a bunch of other different ways, but if your two thumbs or your AI is not ready to respond and take action, then you just have just something that's something, nothing meaningful.
Yeah, I mean, you could go down a rabbit hole of like having a sales funnel and sales copy and a VSL, which we do all of that, right? But we're talking like if you're just starting out, we built a multi seven figure online business with, and our funnel was this: add to messenger conversation to calendar, repeat, add to messenger conversation to calendar, and then you just make the people an offer. Those people that show up for the appointment, you make them an offer, and if they buy, you just acquire a new client, get them a result, and you just repeat that process. We didn't introduce a funnel into that process until like 2 years after the fact, right?
It's trial and error, or just like the aha moment kicked in, or maybe you heard it from or saw something different. And that's like what
No,
we're talking about.
we eventually needed a way to start building like our CRM, like our lists, right? So that we can remarket to these people a little bit more effectively because Facebook had like a timeline on like when you can remarket to people or something like that.
Mhm.
But then we eventually started going from ad to messenger to landing page, but we never removed the conversational aspect of our sales process. All right. We just streamlined it and got it to a point where we have an AI that does all the conversations for us, but we never ever eliminated the conversational aspect from our sales process because it facilitates higher intent. You're building a little bit rapport, and our show rate compared to people having a conversation and scheduling an appointment versus booking themselves in on the funnel, 9 day difference. We're talking like an average 80% show rate with the conversation versus like an average 40% show rate letting people book themselves in on the calendar.
Yeah, and it may be obvious to some or not to others. There's a lot of people that here that are brand new that are watching this, but you're a user of high level. You've used
Mhm.
it for a good amount of time, right? Before it was a cool thing, right? Before everyone started finding out about it, you were one of the early adopters. How did you go about using high level to stream like this? You mentioned some AI, you mentioned some follow-up conversations. Could you just dive in a little bit on how you make that part of your organic process?
Yeah, so being high level is a great for like our automation, marketing automation stuff. And we've used it for our marketing automation for a long time. So we're talking like emails, we're talking like text blasts, we're talking like ringless voice drops, we're talking calendar appointment reminders and all that good stuff. Um, for as far as the conversation goes, automating that, we were using like we had a very disgustingly robust. workflow built out where we're trying to automate conversations with that. And then eventually we deploy Charlie AI for the conversational aspect. And so for us, high level takes care of all the marketing automations, and then Charlie takes care of all the like the conversations that it needs to have with the leads. And then the cool thing with high level is that you can the amount of like the powerful workflow automation that you can build out is pretty intense. But if you're a beginner, you don't need all of that. If you're a beginner, don't try and use AI to have your conversations for you. Get in there and have the damn conversations yourself because that's market research, right? There's so many people who are starting out, they're like, oh, how do I automate everything? While you try and automate everything, and somebody like me who enters your market, who's willing to do the work, who's willing to eat shit and have the conversations with people, is going to crush you because I'm gathering more information. I'm gathering nuance through the conversation I'm having with people. And I'm noticing people respond to this or people respond to that. And I'm making those adjustments on the fly. And then once that process is mastered and I know what gets people to respond and what gets people to from point A to point B, then only then can I take that process and plug it into automations and give it to AI and have it run that for me on autopilot. But there's so many people who want to skip that process of doing the work and getting underneath the bar and just putting in the damn reps. I'm like, just get underneath the bar and just do the damn reps. Like, you're going to thank me for it later. But if you try and shortcut it and go, oh, how do I go straight to automations? Like, you're going to lose because you don't know why what's working is working, right? Then there's
And you had
the
mentioned
more,
it's like the spotter. It's like having a spotter every time. Trying to lift that heavy weight, your spotter is doing 30% of the weight lifting with you. And then when that person's not there, it falls on your chest hard. So getting
yeah,
that muscle memory, getting that brain memory, getting that workflow, being able to do it with your eyes closed and understand the reason of the why, what, and how.
yep,
You brought that home, in a nice way. I definitely I see your passion to it, and we don't want your delivery is deliberate, and that's what I appreciate about you, right? Like you emphasize certain things a certain way to show like this is key, but you like you said before, you got to do the work from the beginning until you end up delegating it to somebody. And again, you really didn't go into this big amount of how much spending with ads or this complexity. Do enough to do a market test and awareness, attract traffic is the key thing you mentioned many times, attract traffic, have conversations, but have a solid offer. And that what you were saying before was like there's not enough offers out there. So having a clear offer, that offer, I feel like that gets us into our third topic here, which is productize what you're delivering and build a process around it. The offer, the product, whether it's a service or an experience, how does somebody today, with what you know, what you've seen, start to get the leg up on productizing their experience community or coaching access?
yeah. I mean, as far as that goes, it's going to be again, it's the same process really with the ads and optimizing that is you got to be the one coaching your clients and working with them. At least take your first 10 clients through your entire process, right? At least like your first 10 to 20 clients, you want to manually be the one taking them through the entire process. Because what you're going to learn from that is there's going to be a difference between what you think you thought you were teaching and what they understand. And there's going to be a delta between the two, right? Taking your clients through that process yourself allows you to fill in those gaps, right? They're going to ask you questions and then you're going to put something out, like you're going to create documents and a video around how to do something. And then they're going to be like, oh, I thought you meant this. And you're like, okay, no, that's not what I meant. And then you fill in the gaps. And as you're taking them through that process and documenting everything that you're teaching them and taking them through, that becomes the first blueprint or the first foundation for productizing what you're doing, right? So step one is you got to be the one taking your clients through your entire thing. We already talked about mapping out the client journey step by step, right? It doesn't need to be crazy details. You're just doing high level checklists of like, okay, these are all the things that I'm going to take somebody through to get them this result. And then as you're taking them through those steps, you're going to realize, oh, wow, there's a lot of holes in this little roadmap that I put together that I need to fill. Instead of taking them through this step, this is actually step one oh, I thought this was step one. This actually needs to be step five, right? And you're making adjustments to your initial roadmap as you're working with your clients. And then that becomes the foundation for like your actual productizing your service and your back end and all those things. And then you can eventually start training somebody else to take somebody through that process for you after you've got it mapped out.
Yeah, and with that part being said, does productizing also include um would that also include maybe some checklists like I everyone learns a little differently. Everyone has sees value a little differently. So, what you shared is one part, and then at what point do you start creating like a PDF or mini modules and videos? And does that really make a difference based on your expertise or what you've seen as best practice?
Yeah, you need to have like a repository of just videos that you made. But when you're teaching your clients live, you're recording all of that, right? Every session that you have with a client to take them through your initial journey, you're recording that, and that becomes your first portal. That becomes your first client portal, right? And you organize it in a way where it's like, okay, if a new person was going to go through this process without working with me one on one, what information and what order do they need to consume in order for them to get the result that this client got, right? And then as you're working with the second person, you're still recording it and going through, okay, I need to update this video. I'm going to replace with this new one. Or now you have a curriculum kind of mapped out to where you can record better videos that are more succinct in your free time when you're not working with clients one on one, right? So you can start building out the portal after you've taken your first 5 to 10 clients through your entire process. Because at that point, by the time you work with client number 10, you got your process down packed, right? You know what they need, at what time they need it, you know what pitfalls are going to run into, what their tendencies are going to be, and you can start creating content around filling in those gaps before they even get on their coaching sessions with you.
Yeah, and if you're just tuning in right now, what we've learned a handful of information around how to go about getting your coaching business off the ground, which was point one. Definitely go back to the beginning. We talked about acquiring clients at scale, organic, paid ads, just getting started. And then we just finished up right now on how to productize all of this. How do we make this into a smooth delivery for you and for the client? As we continue on here, Iggy, you recording all of your sessions is key, and there's so many tools that are out there to edit, omit, transcribe, pivot. And then what really stood out to me was curriculum, making
Mm-hmm.
a curriculum around this. So, coaching business, a successful coaching business, correct me if I'm wrong, is off of predictable results, curriculum, course material, people to feel well and excited to make a transformation.
Yep. Yeah,
Could you just
100%.
could you bring us home on somebody um, that is consuming this, that's ready to start? Just give them if you could just share us with some of your wisdom as we wrap up.
Somebody who's ready to start, like, what would I tell them?
Yeah, ready to start, or if they're at that point where they're like, I'm giving up. But just like an Iggy minute. If I had an Iggy minute, what would you tell me?
I would need to a little bit more context. But if somebody's ready to start, they just need to get out there and get started. At the end of the day, done is better than perfect, right? So when you're starting out, you need to take violent action to get momentum going, right? So people who are starting out, sometimes they don't even they give up before they even start, right? And if you're at a point where you've started and you're feeling like quitting and giving up, what you got to do is evaluate your timeline. When I started my online business, I gave myself 5 years to figure it out before I would make a dollar. I was like, all right, if I can't figure this out in 5 years, it just wasn't meant to be. So I was willing to give 100% of my effort for 5 years straight without seeing a return on that effort before I decided to call it quits. All right. So if you're like, oh, I'm about to call it quits, how long has it been? If it's been like a month, I'm like, dude, get over yourself. Right. If you've been doing it for like 10 years, and I'm like, all right, maybe, maybe we need to consider a pivot. Right. But most people have been doing something for like 3 to 6 months and they're thinking about calling it quits. I'm like, dude,
I'm so
like,
happy you
come
didn't.
on, man.
I'm so happy you didn't crack these jokes in the middle, man. We would have been laughing the whole episode. Yeah, I'm like, this thing, he's much more professional than I thought he was because you was having me laughing when we met. And as people get to know you, man, if you're not following him on Facebook, on Instagram, follow Iggy. I think it's a big thing that, following people that have been there, done that. Clearly the gentleman's been there, done that. And if you need some more research, go ahead. He's an open book. Iggy, thanks for just pouring out, sharing your experience, jumping on here and adding value, and we appreciate you as a high level customer. And I'm looking forward to see you do more things with us if that's cool with you.
Yeah, man. Thank you for having me on. For me, I just want people to have a sneaky suspicion that I might know what I'm talking about. Like, right? I don't want to be in your face about it, but if somebody's in my ecosystem long enough, they're like, this guy probably knows what he's talking about and he might be able to help. And then that curiosity typically leads them to do a little bit more digging and figure out, like, okay, yeah, he could probably help me. All right. And that's it.
Absolutely. Well, till next time, tune into our next episode. There'll be some details below if you're looking to get started with high level, learn more about Iggy, and or learn more about our other guests on our spotlight sessions. Till next time, we'll see you then.
Deuces.